Sorry to interrupt the lively lunch conversations. I really am very, very excited and grateful that you're all joining us for the 2023 Ivan Allen Jr. Prize for Social Courage to be awarded to the great Christiane Amanpour. We're just absolutely delighted to be in this magnificent room to celebrate courage and celebrate an amazing career dedicated to seeking truth. I want to recognize before we get started a few special guests with us today. Our Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia is represented. Regent Kate Joyner, thank you so much for being here. You're in charge of about 330,000 students in all our universities in the state. We are proud to have with us grandson of Mayor Ivan Allen IV, as well as other members of the Allen family. If you want to identify yourselves, thank you so much. We spoke about this earlier during the fabulous fireside chat that we had with Christiane and Tom. But for those of you who may be new-ish to this award is named in honor of the great Mayor Ivan Allen Jr., a Georgia Tech alum, and a man who showed extreme courage in his political career. Courage, first of all, to change his own views about matters of great importance for the city, the state, and this nation. And secondly, courage to driving change in the city that he loved so much. In courage to even go into Washington when he was asked to testify in favor of civil rights legislation at a time with no other white politician from the South accepted that kind and risky invitation. So I could not think of a better name for a Georgia Tech Prize dedicated to celebrating and honoring courage. We also extend a warm welcome to representatives from the Wilbur and Hilda Glenn Family Foundation, including trustee Tom Glenn and executive director Susanna Stribling. And if you can identify yourselves, this is the foundation that, thank you. This is the foundation that helped create the award and that created an endowment. So we will continue to give this award in perpetuity to people like you, Christiane, for their contributions. Again, to all of the guests who were able to be there for the program, the public program earlier on, it was just absolutely fabulous. It was a treat to honestly see this incredibly experienced journalists side by side and talking about what it is like to get up every day and discharge that amazing responsibility that clearly you hold in such care. For the next few minutes, we're going to hear from longtime colleagues and friends of Christiane. And these are people who've known her or have known of her career, or have witnessed the amazing impact that she has had. And those people include Tom Foreman, Parisa Khosravi, and Tom Johnson, who cannot be with us today. First up will be Tom Foreman, who served as our moderator this morning. He is an Emmy Award-winning journalist himself, with a career that spans, I think you corrected it. I said 30 years, and I think I was about 10 years short. So let's get that straight this time. His passion for storytelling has taken him through every corner of our country, more than 20 countries, to report major events. He joined CNN in 2004, and he's based in Washington, D.C., and he is no stranger to Georgia Tech. In fact, he's the proud parent of two Georgia Tech alumna and has also served as a member of the Georgia Tech Foundation Board and the Georgia Tech Advisory Board. Thank you for your continuing support to Georgia Tech and your role here today. Also joining us today, as I mentioned, is Parisa Khosravi. Parisa is a multi-award-winning veteran journalist and news executive who served as a member of the CNN team for almost 3 decades. Throughout her career as Senior Vice President for International News Gathering, National News Gathering, and Global Relations for CNN Worldwide, she directed historic coverage of countless award-winning news stories. She dealt closely with world leaders, dignitaries, and high-ranking officials to open doors to difficult and dangerous parts of the world where freedom of speech is in no way guaranteed. Parisa left CNN in 2015 and is now a sought-after strategic advisor, global speaker, and advocate. Among the causes that she cares about is the well-being of autistic people. Beyond a few remarks of her own, Parisa will share a message from Tom Johnson, who served as Chief Executive Officer of 2 of America's most respected news organizations, including the LA Times and CNN. He was president of CNN from 1990 to 2001 before retiring, closing a long collaboration with Christiane, in which she became one of the most respected journalists of our time. Christiane knows that very well. Tom Johnson is incredibly sorry he couldn't be here today. He has a very good reason not to be here today, but he didn't want to miss the opportunity to acknowledge your incredible career and send his congratulations on this occasion. So Tom and Parisa, we thank you both for being here today as we salute Christiane. And with that, I will turn it over to you first, Tom.
It's great being here. Journalism, I often say, is a really, really, really big business. There are a lot of people in it. There aren't many people who stay in it. Because it's also a hard business. The starting level for most people who want to go into journalism, as Christiane knows, as I know, is usually very far down the pole. Your decisions don't seem to matter a whole lot. The hours can be ridiculously long, and you can wind up in a lot of not comfortable places. When I first joined ABC News, somewhere in the late steam age, I remember at one point thinking to myself, man, I'm flying on planes and staying in hotels. And a couple years later, I was walking down a hotel hallway in San Jose at 2 in the morning, dragging my bags along, and I remember saying to myself, man, I'm flying on planes and staying in hotels. This is the thing. Journalism is the art of knowing what to leave out. You collect a lot of material. You collect so much information, no matter where you go. And in the end, especially for broadcast journalism, you have to boil it down to something that will tell the story in a meaningful way in a short enough period of time that you can get it on the air and that people can watch it and can learn from it. So you're constantly leaving things out. What Christiane will not tell you about her career is that the part of her career you have seen is the proverbial tiny tip of the iceberg. Behind it I cannot imagine the number of air miles you must have. I can't imagine the number of hotels, the number of times there wasn't a hotel, so you slept in the car or alongside the road or wherever we wind up sleeping. I slept on a house in Waco one time on the roof. It was good. But you don't include that. You don't include the endless hours of wrangling with people for tiny bits of information that they may not want out there. And in Christiane's case, doing it with people who not only may not want it out there, but violently may not want it out there. They may not want your company. They may not want you to tell their story. They may be as vehement in their pursuit of blocking the truth as you are in getting the truth out. Those are all the things that you don't see in Christiane's work over all the years. Those of us who do this for a living and who have stuck with it a long time and sort of fought our way through those trenches, rarely the kind that Christiane has gone through, we know what that means. So when Christiane sat with us this morning and shared her thoughts about truth, and about the way people are treated, and about justice in the world, and about what ought to be happening if we really believe in the idea that every one of us in this room has a right to live and to prosper and to have a life. What you won't hear is the enormous battles that she went through to get those stories to you. And as she wisely tipped her hat to this morning, all the many people who are never on screen who helped make that happen. Because without that, it just doesn't happen. That is part of what is left out in the kind of career that Christiane has had. But what has not been left out, as we heard this morning, and that I think she has shown throughout her life, whether you agree with her reports or not, is that she has a tremendous sense of the responsibility of what we do, the ethics of what we do, and respect for the courage of the people we cover and what they have done to try to make their world work wherever they are in the world. And that's the kind of courage that I think you've shown in your work that matters and that I think would make Ivan Allen Jr. proud, and I hope it makes everyone here proud. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today to celebrate my dear friend and former colleague, Christiane Amanpour. I first met Christiane over the phone in the late 80s when I had just joined the international desk here in Atlanta. And she was in New York working to become a correspondent and wanting to go overseas on assignments. As we heard this morning, the rest is history, as Christiane herself has been writing some of those important chapters of history for nearly 4 decades. As a fellow Iranian who also left Iran due to the 1979 revolution, I am especially proud of her to be recognized for the work that she's doing as a journalist to give voice to the voiceless and shed light on oppression and injustice around the world. Christiane's recent work in amplifying the voices of the brave women of Iran fighting for their basic human rights is one such example. Christiane, I don't think there will ever be another one like you. Your name is synonymous with journalism. So many young journalists go into this field because they grew up watching you and they want to follow in your footsteps, which is a great thing because the world needs, more than ever, it needs great journalists. Congratulations on a well-deserved recognition. I treasure our work together and more so our friendship. Former CNN President Tom Johnson was supposed to be here today to give his tribute to Christiane. Unfortunately, Tom has COVID and cannot be here today. Tom has asked me to read his remarks for you. It is my honor to convey the message of our former boss, our former dear boss, Tom Johnson, and his tribute to Christiane. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this tribute to my friend and colleague, Christiane Amanpour. Long ago, a senior CNN executive told a very young Christiane that she did not have what it takes to become a correspondent or anchor. That was not me. It was not Tom. She sure proved him wrong. Her career outlasted his by more than 2 decades. Several high-ranking government officials warned her that the dangers of a combat war correspondent was so extreme on assignments in places like Sarajevo that she should not go there. She did anyway, many times at great risk to her life. One of her CNN combat photojournalists, Margaret Moss, was shot in the face by a Serbian sniper. Margaret survived, but with grievous injuries. In what traditionally has been a macho male world where men dominated the field of international correspondence, Christiane proved that she not only could compete successfully, but she often ran circles around the guys to secure exclusive interviews. Almost every world leader has been interviewed by Christiane. Some of them, like President Bill Clinton, found her interview with him so tough that he complained to CNN. In recent years, the only interview that I know she has not been able to secure has been with President Putin of Russia. One Russian friend explained why Putin declined. Quote, "I simply think he may be afraid of her." In the Pentagon, they once had a global map of the destinations to which Christiane was traveling and reporting. They would place a pin at her location and pay extra attention out of concern that something big may be about to break. They called it the Amanpour factor. In 1998, Christiane secured the first exclusive interview with Iranian President Khatami. He had just been elected. It was the first time any Iranian official had come close to apologizing for taking and holding the US Embassy personnel as hostages. That was a huge story. On the same day that we broadcast the exclusive interview, and historic interview actually, we also were waiting for comments from the White House and the State Department. Within hours, Christiane's epic international news interview was eclipsed by domestic breaking news about Monica Lewinsky and the blue dress. Christiane is very proud of her Iranian heritage. Her father was Iranian and her mother was British. Her life has crossed almost all cultures. She's very close to her family. She has one son, Darius, who will be graduating from Columbia University next month. She not only has covered revolutions, she has lived through them. She has a deep appreciation of how lives can be turned upside down by crises such as the one we are now covering in Ukraine. Recently, she was to have an interview with the current Iranian president. She refused to do it because he wanted to wear a headscarf, a hijab, while interviewing him in New York. All of us are incredibly impressed by the brave Iranian women who are right now asserting their rights. If time permitted, I would love to describe more of Christiane's accomplishments. She's one of a kind, extraordinarily brave, extraordinarily talented. She exemplifies the very finest in television news, simply the very best. Her work shows how effective journalists and international correspondents can advance the cause of human rights around the world. Thank you for choosing Christiane for this splendid effort. Tom Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, CNN, 1990 to 2001.
That was wonderful. So thank you both, Tom and Parisa, for those words. In your program, you have a list of the committee members, and I want to express my appreciation to them. I think most of them are in attendance today, and I appreciate their work. It's not easy at all to do the work they do, to find the person. I don't want to blame them. I'm only the one to blame. Every time when we choose a person, not everybody agrees. These are people who have had courage, and I appreciate the work you do every year to just bring me absolutely exceptional individuals who deserve it. So thank you for your work. And now it is my privilege to officially present the 2023 Ivan Allen Jr. Prize for Social Courage to Christiane Amanpour. Christiane has risked her life in the relentless pursuit of the truth. She's renowned for her tenacity in holding the powerful accountable and for her bravery in exposing the human toll of international conflicts and crises. She has been entering our living rooms and our global consciousness for decades. Her fearless and uncompromising approach has made her a force to be reckoned with for world leaders. Reporting isn't her job, it's her mission. That mission began just blocks away from our campus at CNN's world headquarters during the infancy of the global news network. Christiane worked tirelessly as an entry-level assistant on what was then called the foreign desk. She started at the bottom and climbed every single rung of the ladder. That passion and her innate compassion propelled her to fight against what she calls, quote, normalization of the unacceptable. Christiane would not allow the West to ignore the atrocities in Bosnia in the early 90s. She has said that just by doing her duty as a reporter and telling the world about the Bosnian genocide, she feels as though she truly made a difference, and a difference she did make. The way she reports a story is what makes her truly exceptional. Christiane refuses to be neutral in the face of horror because, and I'm quoting her again, when you're neutral, you become an accessory, as she explained earlier this morning. She has braved bombings. She has dodged artillery fire in her quest to shed light on the darkest corners of the world. She uses her platform to do good, to make this planet a better place, to stand up for what is right. Christiane exemplifies both the spirit of the Ivan Allen Jr. Prize and Georgia Tech's mission to improve the human condition by living our motto of progress and service. This time, I'd like to welcome Christiane Amanpour to the stage. This is the award. This is a beautiful award.
Wow, it's very light.
Yes.
This is a beautiful object. And what it means is, I will describe in a second, but this is beautiful. Thank you very much indeed. It's a lovely design. Beautiful. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Can I just take this
Absolutely.
off? Yeah.
Take that out.
I'm being AI. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Just sort myself out here. Here we go. Glasses. President Cabrera, to the members of the selection committee, to the Allen family, to the Glenn family and foundation, firstly, thank you so much, and to my colleagues, and to all the wonderful words that you've said about me. It's quite emotional. I think that in all the years that I've been doing this, I'm actually really moved and proud to be receiving an award that's about civil rights and human rights and social courage. I'm more moved than getting an award for a particular story or report. Because as you grow older, you realize that actually there's so much at stake, more at stake than just delivering good product. The question is, what is it about? What does it do? What is its throw weight? What is your sense of responsibility? I'm very, very moved also to be back here in Atlanta, just as you said, a stone's throw away from where I started in September 1983. That's nearly 40 years ago. It's a long time. And I started at the very bottom and I stayed with it. I'm very moved to be in the city that is also synonymous, of course, with civil rights and human rights. I'm amazed by the story of your relative, Ivan Allen Jr., the mayor of this city, who went against maybe his tribe and changed his ideas and his politics based on what he knew was right. And one of the most difficult things I've learned is that to go against the herd and to go against your tribe, no matter what that tribe is really something that you really, you screw your courage to the mast and you do it because you know that it's right. So it's really fabulous. I'm really moved to know that this is the city of Martin Luther King, of Julian Bond, of John Lewis, so many people who also won this award, who I've actually been able to interview. So there's a lot here that I feel a connection with. I also clearly feel a connection with my boss, who is still my boss, Mr. Ted Turner, who created civil and human rights out of this thing called CNN. It was just one more step, one more brick in the wall of universal justice, human and civil rights. So I want to actually read something that I came across. It's a quote by Ted Turner, an important quote. It's actually on the wall in the Washington Bureau of CNN. It says, "To act upon one's convictions while others wait, to create a positive force in a world where cynics abound, to provide information to people where it wasn't available before, to offer those who wanted a choice. For the cable industry whose pioneering spirit caused this great step forward in communications, and for those employees of Turner Broadcasting whose total commitment to their company has brought us together today, I dedicate the News Channel for America, the cable news network." So that was Ted Turner, June 1st, 1980, as he created what is undoubtedly the 20th century revolution, not just a media revolution, a revolution. 5 years later, he made CNN the news channel for the world and further amplified the revolution by providing information to people who did not have access to free information, but mostly had access, particularly in the non-democracies, to state-controlled information. He gave people a choice. The short dedication back in 1980 has everything in it: get up and go, do the right thing, purpose and mission, offering choice, seeking truth. And it marks back then a brave new industry, the cable industry, which is what America is all about: innovative industry, success, progress. And he also paid tribute to a company with employees who were all in. I've been all in since the moment I hopped on the Ted Turner bandwagon. Parisa and I went to visit Ted yesterday. We had the most beautiful, wonderful day. He, I can report, is hale and hearty and still pays a huge amount of attention to our world and to the role of CNN in our world. He was funny, he was profane, he was Ted. When we left him, he said, "Don't forget, the power is yours." And then he giggled. But he means it. The power is ours. Parisa had said to him, "Ted, you know what? Everybody says, what difference can one person make? Well, you, Ted Turner, have shown the difference that one person can make. Ivan Allen Jr., all the people who have chosen to put their lives and their consciences on the line show that it is possible for one person to make a difference." He was ahead of his time on everything, not just media. Before media, of course, he was a sports champion, wasn't he? He won all those dangerous races. He nearly killed himself winning the Fastnet race. Of course, he won the Americas race. He became Captain America, Captain Planet. He told us that he created Captain Planet so that young kids would understand what it meant to love our planet and to take care of our planet and to respect every living thing on this planet and to protect it. He was ahead of his time, of course, on the environment, as I say. He was ahead of his time as a private landowner who bought up huge swathes of land across this country, not for his own aggrandizement, but to save it for the future, to conserve it. He was a real conservative. He was ahead of his time on global dialogue with his Goodwill Games. He was very proud of that yesterday. He remembered how the Goodwill Games that everybody sort of, there's a little Ted vanity project. No, this was something at the height of the Cold War that he created that built bridges between a very recalcitrant Soviet Union and the United States with all the other competitors from all the other countries together at a time when both sides were boycotting each other's Olympic Games. He understood the power of communication and the power to build bridges and alliances in order to build and keep the peace. When we left yesterday, he said to us, he said, "Do you think that we'll be able to prevent nuclear war and to have peace?" And we both said yes. We hope we're right. Ted's other great admonition, which he reminded us of yesterday, was to lead, follow, or get out of the way. He reminded us that statement, that slogan, is on his desk and it remains with him. So I chose to follow and learn for as long as I could and for as long as it took me until I could lead. And so that meant lead myself, lead my team on a mission to tell stories that would try and create a relationship between our audience and the world so that they could and would care, and so that things could change once people could understand and care and acknowledge what was going on around with the people and with our planet. I learned to lead and expose the injustices, the inequities, the human rights abuses, and give the voiceless their chance to be seen and heard, because I was told by Ted and all the other journalists who I admired that if you actually have this position of leadership thrust upon you by virtue of the platform that you are utilizing and the magnificent spread of the word around the world, then you have a responsibility to use it with purpose and mission and integrity. So for me, that's leadership, and I learned that from Ted Turner and being in his orbit. Please don't think that as a junior I had any contact with Ted Turner at all. I didn't. I got to know him much later on. I learned also from him and from other great journalists, people like Barbara Walters, who was one of my early examples, to speak truth to power, whether she was interviewing the Shah of Iran or Fidel Castro or whoever it might be, whether she was the only person who's ever managed to get an Israeli prime minister and Arab president together and do a groundbreaking interview when they signed the Camp David peace accords. To hold the powerful accountable, and it's not just a slogan, it's a vital mission, and when we do it well, it actually does make a difference. And in light of what this award is about, the idea of moral courage and the courage of your convictions is hugely important to me, because it is sometimes even more difficult to exhibit that kind of conviction than to exhibit physical courage. I always go back to the words of Robert F. Kennedy that he spoke so eloquently in Cape Town back in the 1960s, in fact, 1966. There he said, as he was addressing Cape Town University at the height of apartheid, "Moral courage is a rarer commodity than bravery in battle or great intelligence, yet it is the one essential, vital quality for those who seek to change the world, which yields most painfully to change." It's simple words, but they're really, really profound. So I am incredibly honored to be here today. I really am. As I said, the idea that it's given for this, social courage, and I don't know whether I deserve it, but I'm glad to have it. And I particularly pay tribute, as I said, to my colleagues who are here, who have helped me along this route, and without whom, seriously, you can't do television. I mean, let's be serious. I mean, camera woman Sydney Strand, producer and executive Parisa Khosravi, boss lady Mira Erdogan sitting there, and many others. Tom Foreman, who I've looked at and watched from afar with your humor and your explainer in chief. It's really important to explain, and it goes, because you can't just assume that everybody knows everything. The explaining and the accessible explaining is really vital to our mission as well. And I would just say that it's been an incredible ride. It's been a great privilege, the hotels and the air miles, but more the tents, the trenches, the difficulties out there. Because by experience, the difficulties, and you mentioned Margaret and others, we have had colleagues who've lost their lives. If you look at the Committee to Protect Journalists and their yearly sort of roundup, today, still, and it's been the same for many years, the leading cause of death for journalists around the world is deliberate. It's murder. They actually want us out there to be silenced, and they actually do try to kill us and wound us and silence us and imprison us. And so it is incredible to be able to do this. But I will say lastly that for me, the most not just the affirmation, but the connection that I have with these stories is the people who I report on, who show the most incredible dignity, courage, strength, even under the most terrible circumstances. To this day, now, after 14 months at war in 2023 in the heart of Europe, the Ukrainian people are so brave, and they really hope that we're not going to turn away, that we, led by the United States and its Western NATO allies, are going to continue pouring the moral weight, the defensive support, and the global conditions for actual decent life. They're going to continue with that, because how do we live in this world? Either according to international rules or according to the law of the fittest survive, the strongest survive. How do we want to live? Ukraine and Russia's illegal invasion shows us right now everything that's at stake. And they are working there so hard to defend our principles, the ones that we go around projecting and telling the world that they better imitate. Ukraine is doing it right now. And so we need to keep supporting them. And part of that support is to keep telling the truth of that story. I would say, on the streets defending democracy, the people of Israel are showing us right now that they will not stand by while their increasingly undemocratic and fundamentalist religious government takes away their basic pillars of democracy. The people of Israel are in the streets showing us a lesson or two. Here in the state of Georgia, the election of 2020 was massively important. Officials from all sides of the aisle stood up and said, no, the people have voted, and this is the result of a fair, honest, democratic election. It's really, really important. The people of the United States, women, young people came out to vote in their election. They would not see their rights trampled, women's rights trampled, and young people wanted to see their ability to live in a democratic state. And actually the climate was a big, big motivating factor in getting young people out to the ballot box, which we see in Europe as well. All of this is human rights, civil rights, social rights, that our job is to amplify and tell the honest story too, and not to get tired about it and not to jump from subject to subject too much. And then lastly, I would say that the thing maybe that has enabled me to connect with the people who I travel around the world to report on is perhaps my own parents, because I grew up in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious household, Muslim father, Catholic mother, an Iranian father, an English mother, in Iran, where it's not exactly, a bastion of women's rights and democracy. I was taught from a young age that there was nothing a woman couldn't do. And I have actually been so grateful. It wasn't, I wasn't beaten over the head by that, but I saw it by example. So I'm so grateful to be in this position. And to Tom Johnson, who bolstered my human rights as president of, I'm just joking, of this network, when he gave me a very high-level position as chief international correspondent. I'm a woman. I was the first woman ever to have that position, and there was only one other, and it was Wolf Blitzer, who was the chief national correspondent. And for years, it was only the two of us. I was a woman. And he gave me that with a nice hefty salary rise to put me on an equal level with the men. And I was very, very proud of that. And I was very grateful to it and empowered me. And I feel very grateful to have had this amazing connection with CNN for so many years, 40 years. And also my connection now with PBS, which broadcasts our show around the United States. Very, very important, and I'm very grateful for that. So to all of you, thank you, President Cabrera. Thank you to the Ivan Allen family. Thank you all, to the judges, to my colleagues, to everybody who's come here. Thanks a lot.